Hey everyone, it's the Afro Avenger here with some terrible, terrible news. In case you all didn't know, Prince, one of the greatest artists of all time, one of the greatest musical creative geniuses of all time, has passed away today. At the age of 57, I wanted to kind of talk about him and how much he meant to me because I've said it a bunch of times in the show probably. Prince was my all-time favorite artist. I have many artists that I admire a lot, but Prince stood above all the other ones for me. I'm gonna read you what CNN said on their report, their article about it. This is CNN. I'll put a link to this article in the description, but it says Prince, who defined the sound of the '80s with songs like "Kiss" and "Purple Rain," and defied the music industry in a fight for creative freedom, died Thursday, which is today. The 57-year-old singer was found unresponsive in an elevator at Paisley Park Studios in Chanhassen, Minnesota. Carver County Sheriff Jim Olson said. Paramedics tried to perform CPR but were unable to revive him. The sheriff said he was pronounced dead at 10:07 a.m. this morning, less than 30 minutes after sheriff's deputies responded to a medical call at the scene. Authorities are investigating the circumstances surrounding his death. Olson said an autopsy will be performed by the Midwest Regional Medical Examiner. So, yeah. And, Prince, he was my idol. As a musician, he was always, somebody that I idolized, someone I always wanted to be like. The way he performed, his musical, diversity, and how much he cared for the art of music and not so much, the money. How much he wanted to, put his music out there. When he was in his fight with Warner Brothers, who didn't want him, putting out all this music that he was creating. He probably had like songs that could make 30 albums worth, and they said they didn't want him to put out that much music at one time. He fought for his right to release his music to the world. And one of the first records that I actually ever bought, this was years ago, was Prince's self-titled album, Prince. And just to show you how much of a huge fan I'm not joking around. I have he has like over 30 something albums. I have at least 20 something of those albums. I was a very dedicated fan. Here's Graffiti Bridge. Graffiti Bridge. 1999. Sorry, I'm not gonna show you every single Prince record that I own, but I just want to show you how much of a huge fan I was. I have Musicology, which was a record which is one of my favorite pop R&B records of all time. I have one of his more recent works, Artificial Age, which I'm probably going to review on this channel sometime really soon. I have Planet Earth, one of his, like mid-2000 records, so on and so forth. I have a lot of Prince records, but I'm not, really here to show you my collection, my Prince record collection. I might do that in a separate video or something, but I just kind of wanted to talk about, how much he meant to me. And this is a really devastating day. It's been hard. When my dad told me, because he's actually the one who got me into Prince in the first place, so he showed me this news video report talking about how he passed away and everything. And I took my girlfriend out on a date today, and even on one of the TVs in the restaurant they were showing it on the news and everything. So it's been kind of hard. So that's two huge music icons. David Bowie died earlier this year. He was super influential for a lot of people, a lot of fans, a lot of artists alike. And now Prince, Prince seemed immortal. People would say the same thing about other artists like Michael Jackson, who died years ago. Not not a long time ago, but years ago. David Bowie, who died this year. They would say that they were all, they seemed immortal, like they could never die because of just how, like their star power, their pure star power, their pure influence, everything like that, just didn't seem like they would die. And 57 is not old, that's actually quite young. Michael Jackson died when he was in his 50s too, and that was pretty young. These guys weren't old, so just kind of wanted to talk about the situation and just how much Prince meant to me as an artist and how much he influenced me as a musician. I strive to be more creative like him, because he had a huge creative mind when making his music. His career has spanned several decades, and that's longer than a lot of artists, and he has like 30 plus albums, which is more than a lot of artists. I mean, even the Beatles, barely had that many. They had like 10 or so, studio albums before they, broke up. And they're considered one of the greatest bands of all time, but, they didn't have as many. And I know that, the amount, the quantity of records you put out doesn't really define you as an artist. It's what you put into those albums. But, the fact that Prince could make so much music in just several decades, that many albums, having that many hit songs, plus his films, many of them weren't all that great. I think Purple Rain is a really good film, but some of the others weren't all that great. Some of them weren't very well received, and even a lot of his albums weren't that well received. Some of them even I'm not a huge fan of, but there are many, that I do enjoy, as a matter of fact. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that, how much he meant to me as an artist. So it's going to be kind of difficult to cope with the fact that my idol's gone. But yeah, I hope. If you want to, in the comments, tell me how what you all think, how you all feel. Maybe what Prince meant to you, if you were a fan. And if you're not, maybe get into his music. I mean, his music isn't the hardest to get your hands on, but there are a lot of albums that are kind of difficult. A lot of albums of his I had to actually order because they don't sell the stuff in stores. So yeah. Anyways, this is the Afro Avenger signing out. I'll see you all in the next video. So long.